The Communist Manifesto, Manifestio, you know, the Marxist system has many branches, and the essential doctrine, however, is a conception which came to be known as historical materialism, or the materialist conception of history. The classic formulation of this doctrine is found in the preface of the Critique Politico Economy, something like that. So which would be, I think that's French. I'm not sure, but it's either French or Italian. And it's which Marx published in 1859, and there he describes how he was led to the conclusion that legal relations as well as forms of the state could neither be understood by themselves nor explained by the so-called general progress of the human mind, but that they are rooted in the material conditions of life. Expanding on this statement, he continued, in the social production of their material life, men enter into definite relations that are indispensable and independent of their wills. These relations of production correspond to a definite state of the development of the material forces of production. I think it's a little more less strategic than that when it comes to Christ Jesus and all that Christ is. But, you know, every man has his own relationship with God. The sum total of these relations and productions makes up the economic structure of society, the real foundation on which arises a legal and political superstructure, and to which correspond definite forms of social consciousness. The mode of productions of material life determines the social, political, and intellectual life process in general. It is not the consciousness of men that determines their existence, but rather it is their social existence that determines their consciousness, which means, again, that the cup is half full or half empty. It's an argument, either way you turn, even if you agree, I'm going to take the left road and you're going to take the right road, and if we come up at the end here and there's no stop sign, or if there's no stop signal, you and I are going to collide. Your yielding isn't going to get it unless there's a stop man there, a stop sign, or a red and green light, and a yellow light has to be there too, so that way they need to know to slow down. Because if you don't help these people, they can't help themselves. At a certain stage of their development, the material forces of production in society come into conflict with the existing relations of production, or what is but a legal expression of the same thing, with the propriety or the property relations within which they have been outworked before from forms of development of the production forces. These relations turn into their fetters. Then begins an epoch of social revolution with the change of the economic foundation. The entire immense superstructure is more or less rapidly transformed. What they're saying here to me is that all these people, if they are not led right, if a man comes into power that won't lead them right, they'll all be bumping into each other. And just to get away from each other, from bumping into one another, they'll go elsewhere and continue through that string of puppets to bump into other people in other countries and other cities, lest somebody stop them. Because this is the way they've been programmed or taught. They've been transformed into something of a stumbling block. Three essentials of the Marxist conception of history are involved in this statement: that the economic structure of society in the pre-communist period is not and cannot be deliberately planned and controlled, but develops independently of human will and thought, and according to objective social law. This means that this takes form of one person's will and one person's might, and it takes over, and it becomes a part of their life legally and acceptantly, and it becomes them and who they are, and then they're willing to fight you over this matter. That this developing economic superstructure determines what takes place in other spheres of social life, such as class structure and the state of law, religion, and ethics, which the state of law also complies to police state, which is communist, meaning that they're allowed to take the form of legal institution or structure or faculty or facilities even. Faculty means police officer or sheriff department deputy. That the course of history is inevitably punctuated by violent revolutions, each making the transition to a more advanced stage of historical development, which is transitions, something that Canada is suffering from right now, a company called Transitions that employs and deploys employees into other provinces and zoning areas for referral. Equally important, although not suggested in the passage quoted above, is a fourth idea, that man shall surely be delivered from their slavery to one another and to historical necessity, when in the fullness of time the proletarian revolution ushers in the communist society. And what follows, as we shall consider these four essentials of Marxism, beginning with the problem of objective development. So they do believe in slavery, which is something Republicans don't believe in. So this would be a democratic view. Which Marx also offers to as the relations of production and as the mode of production, developed except through the ideas and motives of men. When goods are bought and sold, when factories are built or fields cultivated, conscious decisions or purposes lie behind those events. And these events, as Marx himself emphasizes, when a human being makes something, for instance a house, the thing exists first as a plan or an image in his mind before it is constructed in material reality. Quite different as the changes of physical nature. The process of geology, for instance, take place without being planned or intended or directed by a mind. How we have to consider labor is a form peculiar to the human species. Many a human architect is put to shame by the skill with which a bee constructs her cell. But what form the very first distinguishes the most incompetent architect from the best of bees is that the architect has built a cell in his head before he constructs it in wax. The labor process ends in the creation of something which, when the process began, already existed in the worker's imagination. Capital, Every Man, London, 1930. So we see here that they're focused on the imagination. They are looking into the imagination. They are in the thoughts and the mind of the imagination. They are in it. They are going into it. But this is Marxism, right? It's expected. It's College Classic Campus Hits. I'm T.C. Barra.